Everyone, Matt here, aka the Loopy Gardener. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be making soil blocks and then I'm going to be seeding some onions and shallots. So let's get to it. Alright, so the soil blocker I use for the onions is the stand-up 20 from Johnny's, which makes a soil block that is comparable in size to those in a 72 plug tray. Now there are various configurations of the soil blockers, including handheld versions, which are more affordable than the stand-up blockers, so be sure to check online for what best fits your budget. Now I'm not picky about the potting soil or germination mix I use so long as it meets the minimum requirements for vegetable seedlings and plants. Since I'm purchasing all my materials locally, it can be difficult to find the exact same brand or mix each season, as retailers often replace supplies based on availability and cost. I can say that after 15 years as a certified organic market grower, I have tried many different germination mixes and potting soils and haven't really noticed any drastic differences in the way these products perform. One thing I will say is that it's important to find a mix with smaller debris if you're going to be making soil blocks. Some potting mixes will have larger twigs and other organic material that makes it much more difficult to keep soil blocks from falling apart, so it's best to try different mixes so you can find something that will hold together when making blocks. In addition to the soil mix, I like to add a couple handfuls of composted manure. In this case, I'm using steer manure from the local farm store. You want to make sure you have a flat, hard surface to work on because you'll be pressing firmly into your mix with the soil block. Since soil blocks are not contained within a tray plug, but rather fully exposed to the air, it's important to make sure your soil mix is thoroughly wet to prevent the blocks from drying out too quickly. I like the water to drip out of my hand when I pick up a handful of mix and squeeze it. It's also important that when you squeeze the mix, it holds its shape. I recommend that you have roughly double the height of your soil blocker in soil mix before starting each time. The reason for this is that you'll be compacting the soil with your blocker, so you'll need at least double the soil area to make sure you fill the individual blocks properly. It's nearly impossible to fill each block perfectly, even using this technique, so I like to take one of my fingers and quickly press into each block to check for cavities where soil failed to compact inside the block. If you feel areas that need more soil, you can simply finish packing by hand. Once I'm satisfied that the individual blocks are filled, I'll wipe off any excess soil into the bin. I've been soil blocking for over 10 years now, and I can't imagine doing it any other way. Some of the benefits include less stress to your plants because they will air prune rather than become root bound. There's less material to use since you no longer need to pack your soil into tray plugs, and you have increased oxygen levels and virtually no transplant shock, just to name a few. Next, I transfer the soil blocks into a 10 by 20 mesh seed tray. I like the mesh bottom trays as opposed to the closed bottom trays because they allow for better airflow and air pruning of roots once your seedlings are growing, and you don't have to worry about overwatering, which can lead to improper drainage with soil plugs. They are also easier to push against and lay flatter when transferring from the soil block. I like to start by applying firm pressure and then slowly squeeze and release the spring to begin the process of lifting the soil blocker away from the tray and separating the soil blocks from the maker. When done correctly, this is what you should be left with. It does take some time to get used to making blocks, so don't get discouraged if they fall apart the first time you try. The great thing about this is that you can easily remedy any problems by starting over until you get it down. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to make another video spending more time discussing how to make soil blocks. Once you get the hang of it, the benefits are definitely worth your time and effort. Now we're ready to begin seeding our onions and shallots. Today I'm seeding a red onion called Red Carpet, and this seed is pelleted, which is a nice option if you can find it, much easier to handle. Next I'm seeding a yellow storage onion called Yankee, and finally I'll be seeding a shallot variety called Conserver. It's important to know what day length zone you live in because that will determine which onion seeds work best in your area. Onions are day length dependent and need a certain amount of day length in order to begin the bulbing process. So a quick check online will help you determine if you need a short, intermediate, or long day onion variety. When seeding onions and shallots, I like to use the multi-blocking method. As you'll notice, I'm actually placing 3 or 4 seeds in each dibble. Now with onions and shallots, there's no need to thin your seedlings. They actually do quite well when planted in blocks like this. I've been planting this way for many years, and I have to admit I was a bit skeptical the first time I tried this method, but after the first season growing onions and shallots, I never looked back. One of the obvious benefits to multi-blocking is the amount of space you'll save in your garden. Rather than transplanting one plant 4 or 6 inches apart, I place 4 plants together every 10 to 12 inches, so instead of 2 or 3 plants every foot, you'll have 8. Later in the season, once our onion plants are further along, I'll post some video footage of just how well the onions and shallots do in the garden when multi-blocked. Once you've dropped all your seeds in the blocks, covering them is a simple process. I like to gently move the soil from the outside of each block towards the dibble in the center and cover the seeds while using a gentle but firm action to make sure they are tamped down. I've also seen people take a handful of leftover soil mix and place small amounts over the dibbles to cover the seeds. However, this seems like an unnecessary step given how easy it is to simply brush some of the existing soil on the blocks. Once covered, the block should resemble something close to this. Finally, I moved my trays into a small cold frame and placed them on a heat mat. You'll also notice I have a small space heater to provide extra heat until the ambient temperature begins to increase. Now, if you are using a heat mat or a cold frame like this, it will get warm once the sun comes out, so make sure that you don't let those soil blocks dry out and that you keep them watered. All right, thanks for watching everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I had a blast making it. It's always great to get out that first time and start getting your hands in the soil and do a little bit of seeding and thinking of all the possibilities of the upcoming gardening season. So stick with me and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll have many more videos coming throughout the year where I take us all the way from seeding, just like today, through planting and harvesting, and even bringing in some of those beautiful vegetables and fruits that we're growing inside the home and creating some simple recipes as well. So I hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you soon.